In the village of Kwame, beneath the wide arms of ancient baobab trees, there lived a man named Adisa and his wife, Folami. Folami was a woman of generous proportions. Her hips swayed like the river when she walked. Her arms were soft as clouds, and her laughter could fill their entire compound. But despite her husband's adoration, Folami carried a heaviness in her heart that had nothing to do with her body. Every morning, as the sun painted the sky orange and gold, Folami would stand before the small mirror in their hut, running her hands over her rounded belly and thick thighs, sighing deeply. She would watch the other women of the village, slender as papyrus reeds, carrying water jugs on their heads with effortless grace, and she would feel her chest tighten with shame. Adisa, a potter by trade, would often look up from his wheel to find his wife's eyes clouded with sadness. He knew the thoughts that troubled her, though she rarely spoke them aloud. "My moon," he would say, using his favorite name for her. "Why do you dim your own light?" Folami would simply shake her head and busy herself with grinding millet or mending clothes, unwilling to burden him with words she could barely face herself. One day, the village chief announced a great festival to honor the harvest spirits. There would be dancing, drumming, and a special ceremony where couples would perform the dance of unity, a traditional dance that told the story of how the first man and woman came together to create harmony in the world. The entire village buzzed with excitement. Women began preparing their finest wrappers and beads. Men practiced their drumming. But when Adisa turned to Folami, with joy in his eyes, he found her face had gone pale. "We will dance beautifully together," he said, reaching for her hand. Folami pulled away. "You should find another partner," she whispered. "Perhaps one of the younger women. Someone who won't make you look foolish." Adisa's brow furrowed. "Foolish? My love, you are grace itself." "I am too heavy to dance," Folami said, her voice breaking. "The other women will laugh. The men will whisper about how you deserve better. I cannot bear it, Adisa. I cannot." She fled to their hut, leaving Adisa standing alone in the compound, his heart aching for his beloved wife. That evening, as Adisa sat contemplating what to do, an old woman appeared at their gate. She was a stranger to the village, bent with age, wrapped in cloth that seemed woven from twilight itself. "Potter," she called out, "might an old traveler trouble you for some water?" Adisa immediately welcomed her, bringing fresh water and offering her a place to rest. As was the custom, he also brought food, yam porridge and stewed greens that Folami had prepared. The old woman ate slowly, watching Adisa with eyes that seemed to hold centuries. "You carry a burden, young man. I can see it weighing on your shoulders like wet clay." Adisa was surprised, but found himself speaking freely. He told her of Folami's beauty, of her kindness, of her laughter that could chase away any shadow. And then he told her of the pain his wife carried, the insecurity that no amount of his love seemed able to heal. The old woman listened, nodding slowly. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Tell me, Potter," she finally said, "when you work with clay, do you prefer the small, neat pieces or the generous amounts that fill your hands?" "The generous amounts," Adisa replied, without hesitation. "There is more to work with, more to shape, more to create. Your wife is like the good clay, Potter, but she has been listening to voices that know nothing of true worth. I will tell you a story, one you must share with her." old woman's voice took on a melodic quality as she began. Long ago, when the world was young and the spirit still walked openly among humans, there was a time of great famine. The rains had not come for 3 years, and the people were starving. The skinny cattle could barely stand. The crops withered before they could grow, and the people themselves became thin as shadows. In those days, there lived a woman named Amara, who was known for her abundant figure. Even during the famine, though she ate no more than anyone else, her body remained full and round. The other villagers began to whisper that she was hoarding food, that she was stealing from the community stores, that she was greedy and selfish. These whispers reached Amara's ears, and she wept bitterly. She tried to make herself smaller, refused food even when it was offered, wore herself out with work, hoping to waste away. But her body remained unchanged, and the whispers grew louder. One night, Amara wandered into the forest, planning never to return. She could not bear the shame any longer, but in the deepest part of the forest, she encountered Allah, the Earth Mother herself. "Why do you weep, daughter?" asked the goddess. Amara poured out her heart, the accusations, the shame, her hatred of her own body. Allah listened, and then she laughed, not mockingly, but with warm understanding. "Child, you do not understand what you carry. Come with me." The Earth Mother led Amara to a pool and told her to look at her reflection. As Amara gazed into the water, her reflection changed. She saw not herself, but the great baobab tree, the tree that stores water in its massive trunk to survive droughts, the tree that provides shelter and sustenance when all else fails. "You," said Allah, "are like the baobab. Your body knows how to store what it needs to survive, how to endure when others cannot. This is not greed. It is wisdom written into your very flesh." Allah then gave Amara a gift, 3 seeds from the first baobab tree. "Plant these in your village. When they grow, they will provide for your people fruit, leaves, bark, and shelter. And you will teach them that abundance is not something to fear or shame, but something to celebrate and share." Amara returned to her village, planted the seeds, and they grew overnight into magnificent baobab trees. Their fruit fed the village through the final months of famine. Their bark became medicine. Their shade became gathering places. And when the rains finally returned, Amara was honored, not despite her generous body, but because of what it represented: resilience, abundance, and the wisdom to endure. From that day forward, in that village, and all the villages around it, women of abundant proportions were called Baobab women, those who carry within themselves the strength to weather any storm, the capacity to nurture and provide, the beauty of life in its fullness. The old woman finished her story and looked at Adisa with knowing eyes. "Your Folami is a Baobab woman, Potter. She just doesn't know it yet." Adisa thanked the old woman profusely and offered her shelter for the night. But when he went to prepare a sleeping mat, she had vanished as mysteriously as she had appeared. Some said she had been Allah herself. Others said she was simply a wise elder. But Adisa knew that the truth of her story mattered more than the truth of her identity. He went to the hut where Folami lay, curled on their mat, her back to the door. "My love," he said softly, settling beside her, "I have just heard a story I must share with you. Adisa, please Folami murmured. I'm too tired for... It is about baobab trees, he interrupted gently. Something in his tone made Folami roll over to face him. In the dim lamplight, she could see the earnestness in his eyes. Adisa told her the story exactly as the old woman had told him, his voice warm and steady. As he spoke, he watched emotions play across Folami's face. Recognition, pain, hope, and finally, tears. When he finished, Folami was weeping openly. But Adisa, she said through her tears, the other women are beautiful in their own way. Adisa said firmly, the papyrus reed and the baobab are both beautiful, are they not? But when the drought comes, which would you rather be? Folami sat up, wiping her eyes. I have been so foolish. No, my moon. You have been hurt by a world that knows only one kind of beauty. But beauty is as varied as the trees in the forest, as the fish in the sea, as the stars in the sky. He took both her hands in his. When I work with clay, do you know what I think of? Folami shook her head. I think of you, the generous clay that fills my hands, that allows me to create something sturdy and lasting. That is you. When I hold you, there is abundance. There is enough. There is more than enough. You are not too much, Folami. You are exactly the right amount. You are feast when I have known famine. You are shelter when I have known storm. Fresh tears rolled down Folami's cheeks. But these were different tears. Tears of release, of recognition, of a door opening in a heart that had been locked too long. The night of the festival arrived with drumming that seemed to make the earth itself pulse with life. Torches blazed around the central clearing, and the air smelled of roasted meat, palm wine, and expectations. When it came time for the dance of unity, couples began to gather. Adisa stood and extended his hand to Folami. For a moment, the old fear flickered in her eyes, but then she remembered the baobab trees, standing, tall and unapologetic, their thick trunks beautiful in their strength. She took his hand and stood. As they walked to the dancing ground, Folami held her head high. She felt the eyes on her. She had always felt them, but for the first time, she chose to interpret them differently. Let them look. Let them see a Baobab woman, full of strength and resilience. The drums began, slow at first, then building. The dance of unity was a conversation between partners, movements that showed challenge and support, independence and togetherness, strength and vulnerability. Adisa moved with his usual grace, but all eyes gradually turned to Folami. When she began to dance, something magical happened. Her body, which she had tried so hard to diminish and hide, became a celebration. Her movements were not dainty or delicate. They were powerful, earthy, grounded. When she swayed, she was the river carving canyons. When she turned, she was the wind bending the savanna grass. When she stomped, she was the rain bringing life to parched earth. She was magnificent. Adisa felt his heart swell with pride and joy. This was the woman he had always seen, now finally seeing herself. The other dancers seemed to fade into the background. Even the drummers, caught up in Folami's energy, began to play more fervently, matching the power of her movements. The dance that was meant to last minutes stretched longer, neither Adisa nor Folami wanting it to end. When the final drumbeat echoed and silence fell, there was a breathless pause before the entire village erupted in cheers and ululation. The elder women began a praise song, and to Folami's amazement, the words they sang honored her. her strength, her beauty, her dance that had reminded them all what it meant to be fully alive in one's own body. In the days that followed, something shifted in the village. Folami noticed it first in small ways. Women greeting her with new respect, mothers pointing her out to their daughters, young brides asking her advice. But more importantly, something had shifted within Folami herself. She began to move through the world differently. Head high, steps firm, voice clear. When she caught her reflection in the water now, she didn't sigh and turn away. Instead, she smiled, remembering the baobab trees and all they represented. One morning, weeks after the festival, Folami and Adisa were working in their compound when a young woman approached. She was crying, her arms wrapped around herself protectively. "Mama Folami," the girl said, for Folami had begun to be called this, even by those who had children of their own. "May I speak with you?" Folami set down her grinding stone and welcomed the girl, who poured out her heart. A story painfully familiar. She too felt too large, too much, unworthy of her husband's love. Folami listened, and then she smiled gently. "Let me tell you a story," she said, "about baobab trees and the women who carried their wisdom." As Adisa listened to his wife share the tale with another hurting soul, he returned to his pottery with a full heart. From a lump of generous clay, he began to shape a large, beautiful pot, wide-bellied and strong, capable of holding abundance. He decided he would make many such pots, each one a celebration of the Baobab women who carried wisdom in their bodies and strength in their hearts. And on each one, he would carve a small baobab tree so that anyone who saw it would remember. Beauty comes in many forms, and the strongest trees are often those with the widest trunks. As the seasons turned and the rains came again, 3 baobab saplings appeared at the edge of the village. No one knew who had planted them, though some whispered it was the mysterious old woman. Others said it was Allah herself. Folami tended these saplings carefully, and as they grew, they became a gathering place. Women would sit in their shade, sharing stories, supporting each other, learning to see themselves through eyes of compassion rather than criticism. And on festival days, when the drums began to beat, Folami would dance, not despite her generous body, but because of it, and through it, and with it. Her dance became legend, a reminder that passed from mother to daughter. You are not too much. You are exactly the right amount. You are enough. Adisa would watch his wife, the Baobab woman, and feel grateful for the mysterious old woman who had taught him to see what he had always known in his heart, but hadn't had the words to express. Love, he understood now, wasn't about changing someone to fit the world's narrow definitions. It was about helping them see their own magnificence, the beauty that had always been there, waiting to be recognized and celebrated. The slender palms reaching for the sky, yes, but also the mighty baobabs, standing strong and abundant, their wide trunks, proof that the greatest strength often comes wrapped in generous proportions, and that the most enduring beauty is the kind that doesn't apologize for taking up space, but instead offers shelter, sustenance, and shade to all who need it. In every woman lives a forest. Some are bamboo groves, some are acacia thickets, some are baobab stands. All are beautiful, all are necessary, all are enough. Don't forget to subscribe for more African stories. Thanks for watching.